03:08 hours, 9 April 1940. Narvik Fjord, Arctic Norway. The temperature is -12 degrees Celsius, the night blacker than coal, the sea a churning mass of ice and white water. A lone British destroyer, HMS Glowworm, already burning from stem to stern, one boiler exploded, steering gear smashed, down by the head and listing hard to starboard, suddenly heels over and turns straight toward the towering gray cliff of steel that is the German heavy cruiser Admiral Hipper. 30 knots, full speed into ramming. The collision lasts 38 seconds of pure screaming metal. Then, in the red glare of the fires, 36 British sailors climb the twisted wreckage onto the German forecastle, carrying cutlasses, bayonets, Lewis guns, and enamel mugs full of scalding hot cocoa straight from the galley urn. What happens next has never been repeated in the history of modern naval warfare. HMS Glowworm was a G-class destroyer, pennant number H92, launched 22 July 1935 at Harland and Wolff in Belfast. 323 feet long, 33-foot beam, 1,300 tons light, barely 1,400 fully loaded. 4 single 4.7-inch guns in open shields, 10 torpedo tubes, armor you could cut with a cold chisel in places. The press back home called the whole class floating eggshells armed with pea shooters. German propaganda was even less kind, scrap iron coffins for British boys. Even inside the Royal Navy, the admirals thought destroyers were for escorting battleships and chasing submarines, not for picking fights with anything bigger than another destroyer. Her commanding officer from August 1939 was Lieutenant Commander Gerard Roope, 35 years old, born Taunton, Somerset, old Malvernian, boxing blue at Dartmouth. When he was 18, the examining board asked what he would do if ever ordered to haul down his colors in the face of the enemy. The boy wrote in perfect copperplate handwriting, "I would rather die first." He had never seen a shot fired in anger. On the morning of 8 April 1940, Glowworm was part of the escort screen for the battlecruiser Renown, carrying out Operation Wilfred, the mining of Norwegian leads. At 0545, in winds gusting 80 knots and seas running 40 feet, a young able seaman named Albert or Dusty Miller was swept off the torpedo davit. Roope turned out of line without hesitation to search for him. One act of humanity that would cost 109 lives. My 0800 Glowworm was alone, 90 miles northwest of Trondheim, when lookouts spotted 2 unknown destroyers in a snow squall. Roope closed to identify. They were Z-11 Bernd von Arnim and Z-18 Hans Ludemann, part of the German force steaming hard for Narvik with 2,000 mountain troops aboard. The Germans ran southeast, deliberately luring the lone British ship deeper into the fjord. At 1000 hours, a black cliff slid out of the blizzard. Admiral Hipper, 10,000 tons, 16 8-inch guns, armor belt up to 4 inches thick, flagship of the invasion group. One broadside from her could delete Glowworm from the sea in seconds. Hipper's captain, Kapitan Terzi Helmut Hay, could not believe the signal from Arnhem, single enemy destroyer closing fast, clearly intending to engage. 1000 hours. Glowworm opens fire at 11,000 yards. The shells fall short, little orange sparks against the snow. 10:04, Hipper's first full salvo, 8 20.3-centimeter shells, each weighing almost 300 pounds. 3 straddle, 1 direct hit on the bridge. Lieutenant Robert Ramsey, gunnery officer, killed instantly. 10:07, Glowworm flashes enemy in sight by Aldis lamp toward Renown, the last signal she will ever send. 10:09, Second German salvo takes away the forward funnel. Roope orders smoke. Thick black funnel smoke hides the ship for 90 precious seconds. 10:12. Shell penetrates the wireless office. All radio gone. Glowworm is now blind and mute. 10:16. Direct hit. Starboard engine room. Main steam pipe bursts. Speed drops to 20 knots. 10:19. Roope orders torpedo attack. 10 Mark 9 torpedoes ripple fired at 4,000 yards. Hipper combs the tracks, turns 90 degrees, avoids every single one. 10:23. Glowworm swings hard for a second torpedo run. Range now 2,500 yards, suicide distance for a destroyer against a heavy cruiser. 10:26. Shell takes the mast clean away. The crow's nest collapses, 3 lookouts dead before they hit the deck. 10:29. Roope's voice comes over the tannoy, calm as Sunday division. Prepare to ram. Stand by to repel boarders. 10:33. Hipper tries to cross Glowworm's stern to bring the tea. Roope anticipates, throws the wheel hard aport, aims straight for Hipper's starboard bow just aft the anchor chains. 10:37. Collision alarm rings throughout Admiral Hipper. German sailors laugh in the mess decks. Ein Destroyer will uns rammen? A destroyer wants to ram us? 10:39. Impact. Glowworm, still making 30 knots, strikes at a 39-degree angle. Her bow slices 40 meters deep into Hipper's hull, ripping open 5 compartments from the anchor chain locker all the way back to the auxiliary boiler room. 500 tons of icy water flood into Hipper in the first 60 seconds. The shock throws German sailors across passageways. One man is hurled straight over the side. Glowworm's entire forecastle is now locked inside Hipper like a barbed spear. For 38 seconds, the two ships are welded together. That is when Petty Officer Walter Scott, 39 years old, Scapa veteran, grabs the old 1908 pattern cutlass off the ceremonial rack and shouts, "Boarders away! Follow me!" 36 men, engineers black with oil, stokers still in boiler suits, torpedo men, signalmen, boys who were serving cocoa 5 minutes earlier, follow him over the twisted steel onto the German forecastle. Weapons, 2 Lewis guns dragged from the bridge wings, bayonets, cutlasses, 1 captured German MP-38, and enamel mugs still steaming from the galley urn. For 6 minutes and 30 seconds, it is pure 18th century melee on a 20th century steel deck. Able seaman Harry Nobby Hall smashes a German lieutenant across the face with a metal coffee pot. The officer goes down with a shattered cheekbone. Stoker George Taffy Jones drives a marlinspike through a German sailor's throat. Petty Officer Scott empties a captured Luger into 3 men at point-blank range before a bayonet takes him in the chest. Leading seaman Ronald Smith keeps firing a Lewis gun until the barrel glows cherry red. When it is shot out of his hands, he swings the hot barrel like a club. German sailor Matrose Heinz Schmidt will write after the war, "We thought the fight was over when we saw one small ship. Then men came over the side like pirates. One hit me with something that smelled of coffee. I still have the scar." At 10:44, Hipper's secondary 10.5 centimeter batteries can finally depress low enough. Point-blank canister into Glowworm's superstructure forces the 14 surviving boarders to leap back onto their own sinking ship. 10:46 hours. Glowworm slides backward out of the wound she has torn, rolling heavily to starboard. A gun, the only one still able to bear, fires one last defiant round as the sea closes over the muzzle. 10:49. She rolls over and sinks bow first, her stern rising vertically, screw still turning. 109 men are gone. 40 are in the water, many terribly wounded.
Against every Kriegsmarine regulation in 1940, Hipper lowers boats and picks up every single survivor. Lieutenant Commander Roope, bleeding from multiple shrapnel wounds, helps a young ordinary seaman into the German boat first, then quietly slips beneath the black water, the last man to die. Hipper limps home with a hole in her side, big enough to drive a bus through, and spends the next 6 months in dock, missing the entire Norwegian campaign. 5 years later, in captured German files, the British find a letter written by Kapitän Terzi Helmut Hay and sent through the Red Cross. It is a personal recommendation that Lieutenant Commander Gerard Roope be awarded the Victoria Cross, the only time in history an enemy commander has ever nominated his opponent for his country's highest award. On 10